Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
The act of removing or getting rid of something. The bodily process of discharging waste matter. Analysis of a problem into alternative possibilities followed by the systematic rejection of unacceptable alternatives. The murder of a competitor. The act of removing an unknown mathematical quantity by combining equations. The act of forcing out someone or something. The act of removing or getting rid of something. The bodily process of discharging waste matter. The act of removing the contents of something. The act of evacuating, leaving a place in an orderly fashion, especially for protection. The bodily process of discharging waste matter. Waste matter, as urine or sweat but especially feces, discharged from the body. The bodily process of discharging waste matter. The bodily process of discharging waste matter. Analysis of a problem into alternative possibilities followed by the systematic rejection of unacceptable alternatives. The act of exterminating. Termination of a business operation by using its assets to discharge its liabilities. The murder of a competitor. The act of removing. He had surgery for the removal of a malignancy. Dismissal from office. The act of removing. Any of several bodily processes by which substances go out of the body. Remove, cargo, people, etc., from and leave. Electrical conduction through a gas in an applied electric field. Free from obligations or duties. Go off or discharge. Eliminate, a substance. The termination of someone's employment, leaving them free to depart. Pronounce not guilty of criminal charges. Cause to go off. Release from military service. A substance that is emitted or released. Any of several bodily processes by which substances go out of the body. The discharge of pus. The act of discharging a gun. The act of venting. The pouring forth of a fluid. Become empty or void of its content. A formal written statement of relinquishment. Complete or carry out. Discharge one's duties. Pour forth or release. Discharge liquids. Remove the charge from. The sudden giving off of energy. The act of emitting, causing to flow forth. A substance that is emitted or released. Any of several bodily processes by which substances go out of the body. The occurrence of a flow of water, as from a pipe. The release of electrons from parent atoms. A set of techniques for exploring underlying motives and a method of treating various mental disorders, based on the theories of Sigmund Freud. His physician recommended psychoanalysis. The abstract separation of a whole into its constituent parts in order to study the parts and their relations. A branch of mathematics involving calculus and the theory of limits, sequences and series and integration and differentiation. A form of literary criticism in which the structure of a piece of writing is analyzed. An investigation of the component parts of a whole and their relations in making up the whole. The use of closed class words instead of inflections, e.g., the father of the bride, instead of the bride's father. The abstract separation of a whole into its constituent parts in order to study the parts and their relations. Kill intentionally and with premeditation. The mafia boss ordered his enemies murdered. Alter so as to make unrecognizable. The tourists murdered the French language. Unlawful premeditated killing of a human being by a human being. Unlawful premeditated killing of a human being by a human being. Putting a condemned person to death. Law. The completion of a legal instrument, such as a contract or deed, by signing it, and perhaps sealing and delivering it, so that it becomes legally binding and enforceable. The act of accomplishing some aim or executing some order. The act of performing, of doing something successfully, using knowledge as distinguished from merely possessing it. A routine court order that attempts to enforce the judgment that has been granted to a plaintiff by authorizing a sheriff to carry it out. Unlawful premeditated killing of a human being by a human being. Computer science. The process of carrying out an instruction by a computer. The act of reducing complexity. An explanation that omits superfluous details and reduces complexity. Elimination of superfluous details. The discharge of urine. The elimination of fecal waste through the anus. Indiscipline with regard to sensuous pleasures. Involuntary urination or defecation. Involuntary urination or defecation. The elimination of fecal waste through the anus. The act of making something less tight. The discharge of urine. The elimination of fecal waste through the anus.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.